attitude from dealing with data, learning from his example, which would then tie it into what really sold this episode. Instead, it just kind of feels like a sort of a half-assed way to hit the reset button. So Q is given his powers back and celebrates by appearing on the bridge of the Enterprise with his own mariachi band. They, of course, play this classical tune, Mirar el Beri Idiota. So Q says his goodbyes and thanks Data by giving him a taste of what it is to be human, by giving him one really good laugh. Probably look at Enterprise's ratings. They also discover that Q has returned the moon to its proper orbit, and for a moment Picard speculates that perhaps Q has been changed a bit by his experiences, but a quick appearance by Q's head says otherwise. Before I close this out, there's one more scene I want to comment on. It's between Geordi and Riker, and it could have presented an interesting alternative for this episode. They realize the dilemma they're in, that if they are to save Riel-4, the Calamarian will kill Q, and Geordi makes the comment to Riker that Q isn't worth it. Now, that could have been an interesting thing to explore if we learned in the end that Q wasn't without his powers, that this was just a test to see if they would willingly stand by while someone else is murdered if the stakes are the survival of an entire world. I'm not saying that that's what they should have done, but I am saying it would have been an interesting twist for once to see Q place them in a position where there is no way out. Post-episode follow-up. I've decided to award the most annoying character to the unnamed female scientist on the planet. She was irritating every time she opened that belly button-shaped thing on her face that might be a mouth. Final score for Deja Q is 8 out of 10. Aside of the reset, this is about as well executed as this concept could possibly be, that of pairing a being who has been forced to be human alongside someone who wishes to be human. Every scene is needed and lasts just long enough to do its job to get on to the next one, so it is very well constructed. Also keep in mind that scores are relative to the series, so an 8 for TNG is not the same as an 8 for Voyager or an 8 for Enterprise. Deja Q is pretty good, but there are better TNG episodes. I'm afraid the next one, though, won't be one of them.
What is the one thing that Robin Hood is most famous for? He robs from the rich and gives to the poor. Besides that,
He has a band of merry men.
besides that,
He's good with a bow and arrow.
besides that,
He wears green.
besides that,
He battles the Sheriff of Nottingham.
besides that,
He's a master of disguise.
besides that,
He won an archery tournament by splitting the arrow with his own.
besides that.
Perhaps you are referring to the rescue of Maid Marian from Nottingham Castle.
Yes, Data.
Oh, of course, you meant the thing he was most famous for. You mustache-sporting dweeb. But then I'm just a viewer with an opinion.
99 revenue, floating in the summer sky. Panic says it's weather, there's something in.
Yes, our episode is Q-Pid. Good pun on Q's name, about 1,000,000 times better than Hide and Q. Little to do with the actual episode. This is a sequel to our last two TNG stories. Deja Q, because it's Q repaying the debt for protecting him while mortal, and Captain's Holiday, because it continues with the romance of Vash and the action hero's story elements. Like I said then, the big problem with Captain's Holiday was that it was all padding, very little meat to it. Well, that's exactly what you're in for here. The episode begins with us learning that Picard would be giving a speech about archaeology, and it will be on the Enterprise, no less. You gotta love that casual use of the Federation flagship for the odd reception, the Space Holiday Inn. Sometimes I wonder if they have a big sign-up. Tomorrow, Symposium on Tagus 3's history. This weekend, closed for Battle to the Death with the Borg Cube. April 18th, Shriners Convention. Hey, who wouldn't want to see Worf running up the hall after a man in a fez driving a tiny car? So after Picard gripes a bit about his speech, we get the big reveal. Now, most of the time, this would be the presence of Q. A big deal, not only because of his infrequent visits, usually about once a year, but because he is such a popular character in his own right. However, for the first time, we are going to delay that introduction until, about a third of the way into the episode. Yes, even though it's loudly proclaiming to be a Q episode, the title character doesn't actually show up until partway through the second act. It's like the Star Trek version of Waiting for Godot. So instead of Q being in the teaser, we get Vash. Now, what can you say about Vash, except that the woman only crops up in bad episodes?
which is a shame because she's the rare example of a mercenary human, someone who doesn't fit into the sterilized future Federation. Which is no doubt explained by the fact that she was created by Ira Steven Behr, who gave similar viewpoints in DS9. Anyway, the first part of the...
Half in the back. Jerks can't fix the VCR right.
So are you looking forward to seeing Your Highness?
I don't know. I heard Natalie Portman uses a body double in it.
So that's not her ass.
Apparently not.
Well, whose ass is it?
I don't know.
Is there a way to find out?
I'm assuming you can find it on the internet somewhere.
Well, I'd like to know who I've been masturbating to for the last 6 weeks.
Hey, are you two sitting there talking about masturbation on my dime?
No.
Because that reminds me, I gotta hang up my new picture of Jesus. There is.
Mr. Plinkett, that's not Jesus.
Of course it's Jesus. Jesus can look like anybody because he lives in your heart. And my Jesus looks like a sexy little black girl. Oh, I'm going to hang it up now. You guys want to help me? Help me get it straight and level now, because I want it to look good in my wall. What do you think? A little bit lower, a little bit lower.
Up.
Okay.
Straighter. Yeah, no, that's sideways. That's the opposite of straight. Can't you tell that the face is sideways? Yeah. Actually, right there. That's right there. Perfect.
That's great, yes.
Stop!
Wow, that was a disaster.
Yeah. Speaking of disasters, we just saw Your Highness.
In a faraway land, there live two brothers. One brave and bold, the other not so much.
Woo! Your Highness is a fantasy adventure comedy with magic and wizards and sorcery.
Your brother is about to embark on a quest.
The evil wizard of the Tsar has taken my love.
You must journey with your brother to rescue his bride. Can I sleep on it?
It had some good actors in it, though. James Franco and Danny McBride play two brothers that are knights that go on a quest to save James Franco's new bride, who's the damsel in distress, played by Zooey Deschanel. And Natalie Portman's in the film, and she plays kind of like a psychotic, deranged ballerina who's kind of slowly going into madness as her psyche breaks down. And that part felt a little weird. It gets kind of disturbing.
Are you sure you're not thinking of another Natalie Portman movie?
Like a recent Natalie Portman movie?
Yeah.
Like what?
No Strings Attached with Ashton Kutcher?
Oh, right, yes.
I will probably die on this quest. Courtney definitely will.
What were your overall impressions about this film?
If it was 2 in the morning and I was stumbling home drunk and not ready to go to bed and I turned on cable and this movie was on, I would probably watch the whole thing.
I was surprised by this movie, the fact that it didn't have any jokes in it. There's two types of humor. There's jokes, and then there's funny things. Jokes typically are some kind of setup and payoff, and have some sort of value to them. Funny things are the guy falls down the stairs and goes boom.
I will quest the way I like. Here I come.
Oh.
This quest sucks.
Most of the humor, actually like 90% of the humor I noticed during this film was contextual humor. Humor that's funny in context, like the internet series called Chad Vader. You have a kind of a dark, sinister, very solemn, straight character like Darth Vader, and you
put them into a wacky scenario, and it's instantly funny.
I will go ahead and switch your long-distance